Jamie, are you making any distinction between praying for par during your quiet time with God versus those moment-by-moment prayers throughout the day when you're praying for wisdom or patience as you deal with difficult situations?
That's a good question, and the answer is yes and no. I mean, the whole point of Daniel chapter 9 is he gives us a pattern or a progression of prayer and how we need to approach God in prayer, and that needs to incorporate praise and confession of sin, and then obviously petitions, requests, supplications. And so, it's a pattern set before us in praying. Interestingly, the Lord's Prayer does the same thing. It begins in praise. It talks about forgiving us of our debts, confession, and then obviously request, give us this day our daily bread. It's also petition. So the same pattern is laid out in the Lord's Prayer. However, we don't need to be rote about it. We don't need to be driving down the road and saying that, if you didn't confess all your sin and didn't, enter into a 5-minute time of praise, that you can't put a request before God. I mean, that's not the idea behind this. Obviously, in more formal times, I try to be more like Daniel in this. I try to begin in times of praise and then move into times of confession of sin and then move into the supplication time. For instance, when the elders pray for people, and we do on a regular basis, I make sure that as we enter into it, I'm praising God for who He is. I'm confessing all known sins so that my heart might be cleansed, so that when I get to the request time, that I'm then a usable vessel in the hands of God when it comes to praying. So I think there is something to the progression or the pattern here. Having said that, in informal times, if I'm driving down the road going into a tough appointment and, at the last moment I'm breathing up prayers to God, I don't feel like I have to follow it exactly. If I go in with a attitude of praise, which hopefully we're always in, I can throw up requests to God. And so in one sense, there is a distinction being made here, and we don't need to be legalistic about it. Having said that, I think generally speaking, we approach God with an attitude of praise, and we approach Him by confessing sin. And when those two things are established in our hearts and our minds, we're best then to present requests to Him. So that's what we're trying to do in today's message. And I hope it was helpful, because I can't wait to see how people deepen in their prayer lives as a result of all of this.
Thank you, Jamie.